Hi everyone, welcome back to the Stitches and Scribbles channel. My name is Erin and I have a crafting podcast for you today. We're going to be looking at some finished objects for December, as well as talking a little bit about how I want to stay organized with crafting moving into 2026. This is going to be kind of like my crafting goals for the year video as well, but we'll do all the other stuff first. Also, I apologize if you can hear my heat running in the background. It is very cold where I live. It was currently only like, I think, a high of 6 degrees today or something like that, so you will hear my heat throughout the video. I have it on my list to get like a little microphone to hopefully make that a little bit better, but I just don't have that yet, so you'll hear the heater. It'll be fine. Let's talk about some finished objects first. I have quite a lot of finished objects. All of them are in like multicolored yarn or color work or stripes. It was a very colorful December of project work, which was very exciting. The first one I'll show you was a tutorial that actually came out at the very end of December, I believe. Yes, end of December. And this was for my knit ponytail hat. I did a crochet version of this in, I forget if it was October or November, but the idea is that it's a tube constructed hat that has a drawstring at the top that you can open up if you're wearing a ponytail or a bun on top of your head, or you can even open it all the way and use it as a net gaiter instead of a hat. This is a hat style that I had made one of several years ago, I believe on my knitting machine. And when my hair is long, I get a lot of wear out of that hat. So since my goal is to grow my hair out again, I knew I wanted to have a few more in my collection. So I started with this one. This was made in Barocco Sesame. And I know that the color is just a number. It's not a name. So I don't remember what the number is. But this is the finished hat. I think it turned out really cute. The tutorial is available. So if you want to make something similar, you can go check that out. My second finished object will be a video posted later this month, I believe, and that is the Isabel Crescent shawl. I'm forgetting the designer's name right now, but this will get a dedicated video. I don't know if you can see it on camera because it doesn't show up super well against my shirt. But this shawl has 2 crescent moons and a full moon in the middle, as well as some like star motifs. This is a filet crochet pattern. I made this in a yarn that I purchased at the Chicago Yarn Con, but more details about it will be in that upcoming dedicated vlog. So I will say, and this is something that I don't think I said in that vlog, even though this was a project that I finished actually this morning, finished it yesterday on December 31st. So New Year's Eve is when I finished this. I just finished the video this morning. Moving into 2026, one of my goals is to play with colors and textures. So I think that this did kind of serve as an intro to that goal, even though it's a 2025 project, not a 2026 project. And this is actually going to be a gift for a friend. She went to the Chicago Yarn Con with me and picked out the color. So I'm really excited to give that to her later in the month because she has a January birthday. So very excited about that one. It was the first time I had done filet crochet in a really long time. I used to do it fairly often in high school. I would make like little bookmarks or like I think even some coasters with filet crochet, which now thinking about it, a filet crochet coaster makes no sense because it's mostly holes, but like little tiny patches, maybe I use them as wall hangings or something. But it had been quite a long time since I had done a filet crochet project, so I was excited to kind of jump back into it with the crescent shawlette. The next project on my finished items list, actually I should have brought down the Christmas lights, but you've probably seen those. I, for Advent, made a string of knitted Christmas lights. I used the Twinkle and Shine lights pattern. I also am forgetting the designer name at the moment. But I have a playlist for those in my shorts on YouTube. It's, I think, just called Scrapvent 2025 is the name of the playlist, but I made a little knitted Christmas light every day during the month of December. And I started that by separating out 5-gram balls of all of my sock weight yarn and putting it in the advent calendar. And 5 grams turned out to be more than double what I needed for each light, so I had quite a bit left over of each yarn color. So I made myself a scrappy Sophie scarf. I think this turned out so cute. I'm so excited to wear it. I did have to add extra to one side because I didn't quite calculate my yarn correctly, and this was actually the last color in the advent scrap, so I had to add a little bit extra of the pink that I had laying around. You can see it's got other stripes in the scarf, but I thought this was a very fun way to use up all of the leftovers. And I know that we have like a crazy dress day coming up for Catholic Schools Week at the school that I work at, so this might make an appearance for that, because everyone already knows that I wear a lot of crazy colored knitwear stuff, but I think this might be the most vibrant piece that I've made so far, although I have a work in progress coming up that I might need to finish in time for Catholic Schools Week just so that I can wear these together, because it's very much the same vibes. But I thought that this was very fun, very colorful. I think it'll bring a lot of cheer to cold winter months. And I liked that I could use up all of those extras from the advent calendar without putting them back into my scrap stash. So they still got a designated project, but I did think it was funny that I had a scrap project for my scrap project. So that was just kind of amusing to me. The next project I finished is actually a Christmas present, but my family doesn't do Christmas with our, like, my parents and my brother until Epiphany, just because actual Christmas is too busy for us with other family members and events and mass and like doing all the things. So we decided several years ago that we just do our gift exchange on Epiphany or the weekend closest to Epiphany. So we are actually going to do our gift exchange this coming weekend from when I'm filming this. And this was my last pair of Christmas socks I needed to make. These are for my dad, and I'm saying this very confident because he does not watch my videos, which is just fine with me. But these are still just vanilla socks. I followed the SOS basic sock pattern from Summer Lee Designs, and I did these in a Croy Patterns sock colorway. I'm now forgetting what the name of it is, but it's a gray, a navy, and a deep eggplant purple with black. I did do contrast toes and heels. I did the cuff just in the regular yarn color, and these were for a men's size 9.5 to 10 approximately, because he's between sizes. But one thing I thought was funny and I didn't think about when I picked this color, my dad is actually colorblind, so the fact that I found a sock color for him that has both navy and black in it means that they will match everything. So I thought that that was kind of funny in hindsight. I did not do that on purpose when I picked this color originally, nor did I intentionally make all of the socks I made for family members this year some shade of blue, but that's just what worked out. My mom had like very bright royal blue socks with like a light blue contrast color. For my husband, I did like a teal and gray kind of marled gradient sock. For my brother, his was actually kind of the same striping pattern, but it was black, green, turquoise, and like an aqua blue, like kind of neon with black. So they do kind of all end up with a blue somewhere in them. These were definitely the darkest ones, although my husband's also had a lot of gray in them. So all different shades of blue somewhere. But I picked this color because it has the eggplant purple in it, so that my dad could wear them for Advent and for Lent if it's still cold at that point. But I did think it was a little funny that I got a sock color that had gray and navy and black in it, so it'll match whatever. Up next, I made a gift for my mom, and this isn't specifically a Christmas gift. It's kind of just going to end up as a just because gift because I already have something for her stocking. But I found this yarn, and here's my scrap ball. This yarn was from Joann. I don't remember what it was called, but it's not being made anymore. Rest in peace, Joanne. But my mom loves royal blue, so when I saw this like kind of fuzzy woolly yarn, I knew I wanted to make something for her with this, and I got 2 cakes of it originally. So I made her a Sophie hood. This is the first Sophie hood that I've made, and I already plan on making several more for myself, for gifts for other people. Here's what the hood looks like. I'll go ahead and put it on, and then you kind of just wrap the scarf around you and tie it, or don't tie it, whatever. You can pull it over your face really nicely. So we live in Wisconsin, and it gets very cold and very windy. So my mom had mentioned wanting something that she could put over her face in the winter, so this seemed like a really good pattern for that. I love how the self-striping ended up looking for this project. It kind of reminds me of like Northern Lights colors with the like deep blues, but the like oranges and kind of teals. I just think that this turned out really, really pretty. The only modification I made to the pattern is instead of leaving a seam at the back that you had to sew up, I just picked up my stitches working back down the hood because I knew I would not want to sew it together at the end. And I think that worked pretty well, actually. I think I could have done a slightly neater job with it in some spots, but it works. And I think it's one of those things that only I am going to notice, not other people. But I loved this project. I already have some yarn set aside in my stash to make one for myself. I actually have this same yarn in green to make one for myself. And the like contrast stripes in the green one are like a teal and a yellow instead of like a turquoise and the orange. So very excited to make that. And then I still had yarn left over, so I made her a pair of mittens. These are the basic mittens by Tin Can Knits. You can make them in any weight yarn, which I found really helpful while making these, but I thought the striping pattern looked super cool on the mittens as well. I did just make the thumbs after I finished the tops of the hands, which is why the thumbs are so contrasted to the bodies of the mittens that they're attached to, but I think this was like a perfect mitten pattern. I love how long the cuff is. They fit really well. They're very warm. I think that those will be nice as well. And then I still had yarn left over, so I also made her a headband. This was just a self-drafted pattern, knit stockinette in the round, and then I grafted the edges together so that there is a seam that you can see, but it's not super obvious. But I thought a double knit, not double knit, but like double thick headband would be nice under the Sophie scarf if it's like extra cold, or if it's not cold enough to do the whole Sophie scarf hood situation, then you can wear just the hat and the mittens. However, as you saw, I still have yarn left over, so I need to figure out something to do with this or just decide to destash it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet because it's not something I can really incorporate into a scrap project since it's such a different texture. It's not going to match my other worsted weight acrylic scrap projects, but I need to figure out something to do with it. My last finished object is one I have been working on for a very long time. It is something that sat kind of in my unfinished objects pile for a while. This is my birthday scarf that I started on my birthday in 2025, where I picked a whole bunch of mini skeins and a couple of full-size skeins and made just the biggest, craziest color work infinity scarf. So this is a variety of patterns from Jamie Lomax and her doodle cowl sets. I know I used a couple of them. I think the basic doodle pack and the holiday doodle pack, there were some motifs from both in here. But I just kind of knit color work until I was tired of it, and then I knit a gradient until I was mostly out of yarn. So this is like an insanely huge color work cowl. But the winter coat I ended up purchasing this year is like a sagey green, so I think it'll look really pretty with that. and I love having birthday projects. I've mentioned this in a couple of videos, and I will be doing a birthday cast on this year, so that'll be its own video. But for some reason, I associate the colors of purple and lime green as birthday colors. So if I'm going to do a birthday project, it has to have purple and it has to have lime green. Other than that, it can kind of be whatever, but this was a project from that. I do think this section is my favorite part of the whole piece. It's just a really simple colorwork design, but I used all of those little scrappy colors in there. So yeah, those are my finished objects. Talking about goals for 2026. Actually, no. Let's talk about whips first, and then we'll talk about goals. So I have a couple of ongoing projects, and I'm trying to be a little bit more organized about how I do whips, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But one of them is that I'm trying to keep projects for like certain areas of the house, if that makes sense. I used to be like I only do crafts down here in the basement kind of person, but I'm trying to stop doing that, partially because I want to avoid scrolling on TikTok before bed. So I've been trying to do audiobooks and knitting before bed instead, because it still gives me that like something to do with my hands feeling without being on social media. So I've been using little baskets for that. And then it's like a dedicated project that doesn't leave the house, because I'm not gonna like walk around with this. This is a Sophie scarf that I'm making to match my ponytail hat. So this is that same Barocco sesame yarn. I am adapting the pattern a little bit. It's gonna be a little bit wider and longer than a normal Sophie scarf, because I'm using the leftover skein from the hat and a whole second skein. But that's just been in this little basket, and it's specifically my like before bed audiobook project, which I have really been enjoying. And then I also in a basket have it's actually another Sophie scarf, because I don't actually own the Sophie shawl pattern, but it will be shawl sized. Started with black, but it's this gradient yarn. This is one I started over Thanksgiving and then didn't really pick it up again. So it will be my next audiobook project after I finish the other one. And I think I've mentioned this before in previous podcast episodes. I'm trying to build up some more purple pieces in my wardrobe, because I like to wear purple to mass during both Advent and Lent. So I did like a couple like warm cozy purple projects earlier in the year to have those for Advent. And then Lent sometimes is really cold, sometimes it's really warm. It totally depends. So that's why I picked that gradient cake. It's a cotton yarn, so it's a lighter weight piece. And then I have two other active whips. One of them is my timber pullover, which is a crochet like quarter zip but quarter button style. So I have started the decreases for the neckline and got pretty far on it over the month of December, despite it not being like a super active project. But this one I'm fine with going really slowly on. I don't have a deadline for it or feel like I need to finish it at any specific point, so that's just kind of a when I feel like it project. That one is a little bit more intense because I have to look at the pattern while working on it, so that is more of a like sitting at my desk project. I don't really take that one with me. And then my other more active project is at a point where it's pretty easy, so it could, but it's like too big to be a knitting in bed project. So it kind of also has to be down here, but it's more like watching movies with my husband level project. This is a raglan that I started forever ago. I don't remember what pattern I started with. I know it was a video tutorial, but I have almost finished the body. I am starting a split hemline and garter stitch. So that little bit you see at the bottom is the front, and then the stitches for the back half are on hold at the moment. And then the plan is just to knit the sleeves straight and cinch them in at the wrists with some ribbing. This is made in Lion Brand Kobu in the color Lichen, held together with sock weight scraps. You'll see that some of the colors from my Christmas lights scarf are in here, which is why I think it'd be funny to wear them together for a crazy dress-up day for Catholic Schools Week or School Spirit Week. This sweater is very thick. It's not as like warm and stuffy as it looks because the Kobu yarn is a cotton bamboo blend, but then with the wool of the sock yarn it has like a little bit of warmth to it, and it's definitely heavy, but this color makes me so happy. So I would like it to be finished so that I can wear it. Those are my active whips. I do have a couple other whips that are in kind of my like unfinished objects holding zone, which is a little cart that I have in currently like the back corner of my counter, but I'm not concerned about those at the moment. I'm going to finish what I'm working on and projects for videos and just kind of pull those out one at a time and add them to the whips rotation. So now we can talk about goals for 2026. I do not have any acquisitions for this month. I did not do any yarn shopping. I did not get any yarny things as gifts yet because we haven't done our family gift exchange, and I haven't done the gift exchange with my husband's family yet either because I was sick the day that we were supposed to leave. So he actually went by himself. He'll be back by the time this is posted. So but I didn't ask for any like yarn related things this year, so I'd be kind of surprised if I got any crafty stuff for Christmas. Anyway, goals. One of my big goals was to reorganize all my craft supplies, which I have done, and that should be a video coming out it should be out by the time you've seen this. I just realized that the crescent shawlette might not be out yet because I don't remember what my filming schedule is. That's just kind of how it goes. But I wanted to really go through my stash, label everything, be really aware of what I have, and I have done that. So you can see that my like little shelf situation back here has changed, and I have those tubs in front of the shelf, which are my filmed project kind of holding zone. And already it kind of feels like a release. It doesn't feel so chaotic in here anymore. I realize it looks chaotic because there's like baskets and boxes and bins everywhere, but I feel like I know what I have now, which makes me feel better about picking projects. I also realize that like my entire filming schedule of what I want to make this year, I already have the yarn for. I don't need to go shopping for anything. I want to use only what's in my stash. I'm not going to put myself on a yarn buying ban because if we happen to travel this year and go to a cool local yarn store, I don't want to feel like I can't get something from there, but I'm really making a concerted effort this year to use what's in my stash when working on projects and not impulse buy yarn. Let's put it that way. No impulse buying yarn. I have so many yarns that I'm excited about using that I had forgotten were in my stash, so I'm really glad I took the time to go through everything. Which would not have happened if I had gone to visit my husband's family. That only happened because I realized I was homesick and could like spend the time to do that. So kind of a blessing in disguise. Even though I wasn't feeling well, I was feeling well enough to organize all that stuff. I had a really bad like sinus headache situation. I think because it got like really warm here randomly, like right around Christmas, and then got very cold again, and there was so much pressure in my sinuses that it was like giving me a headache and making me nauseous. So I just felt like traveling, especially a really long car trip, was not a good idea, so ended up staying here. My other kind of crafting organization goal for the year was I wanted to start a dedicated crafting bullet journal. And I've kept a bullet journal for like my tasks and like daily life stuff for several years now. I think I started maybe like my first year of teaching, so like 2016. So it's been almost 10 years of bullet journaling. No, it has been 10 years of bullet journaling. I might have started in 2017, so close to that. But I picked out a dotted journal just to keep track of my crafts. And this will last more than 1 year, I'm pretty sure. But I wanted a place to write down each project that I was working on and kind of keep track of things like the yarn that I was using, the name of the pattern, the notes, when I started versus when I finished, all that stuff. So you can see I already have some in-progress projects listed there. So I only so far wrote down my scrap sweater that you saw, my knit scrap blanket, which is in my Scrappy Sundays, my crochet scrap blanket, which is in my Scrappy Saturdays, and the Sesame Sophie scarf. I obviously have a couple other whips to add. I wanted to make sure I started off the year recording anything I was coming into the year with. But I kind of like this system. I'm excited about this. I also have a dedicated set of zebra mild liners for this and these like soft pastel colors because my daily life bullet journal for this year is very like bright neon maximalist themed. So I wanted kind of the soft pastel aesthetic for my knitting and crochet project journal. But a big reason for having that is I wanted to be able to record the yarn names because that's something I'm really bad at. I'll have finished objects that I've had for years and will realize I want to make something similar and have no idea what the yarn is. So I figured recording it that way would be a good way to have a reference of what I finished. And then if I need like a visual for it, I can come back to podcasts and see like, oh, I finished this project in February of 2026. So I have to check like the March episode of the podcast from that year, just so that I can kind of keep track of stuff that I have finished. But yeah, basically the goal going into 2026 is to be more intentional about my crafting, both in staying organized and in keeping a record of what I've made. I will say my other goal, and this is kind of like an informal one, I really want to play with colors, patterns, and textures this year. So you can see like finishing up my scrap sweater is playing with color. Texture is like the crescent shawlette that I made that had the shape of the crescent moons in it. I would like to try some more color work projects. I know that was my big goal for 2025 was to do a couple color work projects, which I did successfully do. Mostly that birthday scarf was the big one, but I would like to do more. There's so many beautiful color work patterns that I'd like to attempt at some point, but I feel like I need to get a little bit more confident in my tension for color work before I want to attempt a wearable, because if your tension's wrong on a garment, it affects the fit. So I'm a little worried about that. So I'll just have to practice on some other things first. But yeah, I think that's it for this episode. I think I've been talking long enough about yarny things. So we'll just call it quits here. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw today, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below so that you can be notified of all of my content right here on YouTube. I talk about crafts, I talk about books. It's generally a good time. If you want to follow me on other social media sites, that information is in the description box. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a great start to your 2026, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.